I've got a problem where my water temperature is only maintaining for a few minutes before it drops off. I'm not getting cold water, it's just not nearly hot enough. Goal here is to see what we can do to troubleshoot this without calling a plumber. Quick test of the water shows that it's 122 degrees coming out.
5 minutes later.
It's dropped down considerably. It's definitely not just in our heads. So my house came with these two 50-gallon electric water heaters that were in series. However, the one on the left started to leak from the base, so I bypassed it. Ever since then, my family has complained that there's not enough hot water. The tools I'm going to need, I pretty much need an electric tester, my multimeter, and a screwdriver. And I'm just going to check to see if the power's on, which on this side it should be off. The one on the right, the power should be on, which we need to go flip the breaker for.
12,
Just going to turn the breaker off. Retesting the water heater again to make sure there's no power. Okay. At this point in time, we pretty much just need to take off both of the cover plates to the heating elements, and we're going to test to see if the water heating element is bad. A little bit of research has indicated that if you have hot water like I have, but it goes cold or less hot after a few minutes, most likely one of the elements is bad, and really most likely the bottom element's bad. So my guess is we're going to test the bottom and see it fail. Grab your multimeter, set it to detect resistance. In my case, we're just going to the lowest setting. I'm just looking for any resistance. And we're going to test the top element first. In this case, it comes up with a value of a 10. Now when I look at the bottom element, immediately I notice there's moisture in here. It's pretty clear that something's going on with the bottom element. So we're going to test its resistance as well. In this case, nothing tests out. I'm even testing from the screw to any other point. There's just no continuity. It's pretty clear that with no continuity, this particular test has failed. We're going to move over to the old water heater. This is where I'm going to test it just to compare. And I get that same value of a 10. At this point in time, the only thing to do is to drain this tank and replace the element. We're going to turn the water off at the top. Just moving the lever. I'm going to flip the pressure release valve up. The tank kind of has a vacuum inside of it. So this is to help get water to drain out when we're ready to drain it. So I go into the house, I turn the water on until we see that there's no more pressure. And then we're going to go back to the tank. And what I like to do is to get a bucket, just kind of get the initial thing open. This gets some of the grime out of it. And you'll see here, it's kind of some nasty water at the bottom, but it's only that way for a few seconds. Now we're just going to attach the water hose and drain the whole tank. This takes a while. Since we're going to replace the water heating element at this point in time, it's a quick trip to Home Depot to get the actual tool that replaces this element. In my case, I'm going to borrow an element from the other heater, but if you needed to buy one, all the stuff is in the same spot. You pretty much just need to look at the wattage rating and voltage of your water heater. This is the particular tool I'm looking for though. $8 isn't bad. We're going to start by removing the wires from the water heating element. This particular tank is my bad one. This is going to be the donor. So we're going to take these two cables off. I'm going to grab the tool and we're going to unscrew this element. Unfortunately, the tool is a little too tight and this screwdriver is about to break, so I got to go bring in something heavier. If I had a breaker bar, I would use that. In this particular case, I just took an old rebar, which gave me enough leverage to actually take this thing off. My plan is to use the water heating element from the top of this tank because it's likely in better condition than the one at the bottom. I slide the water heating element out, and it's actually better looking than I was expecting. Now that the tank's drained, we're going to come back in here, we're going to take the water hose off, and I'm going to remove the element at the bottom that we just proved was bad. Same story, we're going to take the cables off, and then we're going to grab the tool we bought from Home Depot and we're going to remove this water heating element. At this point in time, it's clear to me that this water heating element at the bottom is actually different than the one at the top. I decided I would probably take the bottom element, at least to see what condition it was in from the donor. And when I remove it, it turns out that it actually was in a lot cleaner condition than I was expecting. So we're going to use this bottom element instead of the top element. Now that I have my donor, we're going to insert it right back where we removed it. Kind of line it straight up. This was a little difficult to get the thread started, but it's going. Once it's in, then we just grab the tool and we tighten it back in place. At this point in time, I'm just going to reconnect the cables back where they came from. I'm going to grab the multimeter again, do the same test. We're just testing to make sure that both test fine now. And in this case, they're both testing the same. I'm pretty confident that we've fixed this water heater at this point. So we're going to fill it back up. Close the pressure release valve, and then I usually take a bucket and drain out a little bit of water while it's filling up just to kind of flush a little bit with fresh water. This water's coming out clean, so we're good. Then I go over to the house, I turn the water back on, you'll see it spray through until there's enough pressure. And then once there's enough pressure, I know that we're good to turn the electricity back on. So we're going to go back, flip the breaker on, and at this point in time, we wait to see that the thing heats up. I'm going to test the power, make sure the power's working throughout. Again, this is just a non-contact voltage tester. I'm just checking to make sure something's happening. Now I know the water heater's on. What's going to happen is it's only going to turn one element on and not the other. In this particular case, I have 240 volts at the top. I'm going to have 0 volts at the bottom. We know the top element is working. In this particular case, I have no way to prove the bottom is working yet, but I have a Sense Home energy monitor that shows me basically how much power this water heater is using. In my case, what happens is about so long into the water heating element, we see it turn off and then we see the other one turn on. That's kind of my indication, so I'm coming to test, and we'll see it's at 240 volts again. So at this point in time, I think this thing is repaired. We're going to seal it right back up and test to see what happens. And we have hot water again. This may not be a perfect repair, but it's definitely good enough.